Are you a first-time home buyer looking to purchase a home in this market and considering using an FHA loan? Maybe you're just starting the process, researching different types of loans and thinking FHA is the way to go, or maybe you're already pre-approved with an FHA loan. Well, in today's video, we're going to dive into some of the potential issues, the pitfalls of using an FHA loan in the current housing market. Now, a lot of what we're going to discuss today comes from questions that I receive from viewers out there watching my videos when I discuss FHA loans. And the first one is going to be credit scores. This is probably the most common question I get when it comes to discussing FHA loans. So as you know, FHA allows credit scores as low as 500 if you're putting 10% down. If you're putting the 3.5% down payment, which is their minimal down payment, you have to have at least a 580 credit score. And the most common question I'm getting right now in this housing market is, I can't find a lender that will go as low as the credit scores you're saying that FHA will do. Why not? Can you refer me to somebody? And the issue is that with the pandemic going on, everything that's happening in the housing market, how busy these lenders are, there have been some overlays put on these programs. So what does that actually mean? Well, it means FHA allows these credit scores. They allow credit scores as low as 500 with 10% down. They allow a 580 credit score with a minimal down payment of 3.5%. But FHA doesn't actually lend the money. They're just the government-backed program that allows these loans to happen. Now, with that said, now lenders out there have put overlays on these programs for one reason or another, which essentially adds an additional layer on top of the program. So what most home buyers right now are finding is that most FHA lenders in this housing market won't go below a 640 credit score. And I have a lot of people reaching out because of that, asking me, hey, can you find me a lender that will go, down to these lower credit scores? And I do have lenders that I can refer you to across the nation. So if you're looking to purchase a home and get qualified, whether you're using FHA or not, reach out to me. I'm happy to put you in touch with somebody that can guide you in the right direction, a professional out there that does a good job, someone that has a reputation that I'm aware of. And you're not talking to a call center, you're talking to a professional. But with that said, what I would tell most home buyers in this market is, even if you could find a lender that will do the lower credit scores, the under 620, the under 580 in some cases, if you have that 10% down, is that the terms that you're going to receive from that lender are not going to be favorable. They're going to come with higher rates. They're going to come with additional fees. And my opinion is that instead of trying to find a lender out there that will do the lower credit scores, I would suggest that to try to work on your credit score more so than researching lenders that will actually go that low. Why? Because the terms are going to be way more favorable for those higher credit scores, and it's not that difficult to raise your credit score. I've talked about this in other videos, which I'll link to here, on ways to raise your credit score. But the reality is, if you can get up to a 640 credit score, the fees and the rates that you're going to get with FHA are going to be pretty comparable to that of somebody with a 700 credit score using an FHA loan. I mean, the credit scores with FHA and the rate and fees that you receive with those credit scores don't vary that much once you get to that 640 threshold. So I would tell you to work towards a 640 credit score and really try to get there, because the terms and the fees are going to be much more in your favor and allow you, a lower monthly payment, so on and so forth. So that is issue number one that I'm seeing a lot of in this housing market. And that would be my suggestion to overcome it. The second issue that I'm seeing right now is that it being a very competitive housing market out there, there are FHA loans. In fact, there's a lot of them happening in this housing market, but what I'm seeing is sellers reluctant to accept an FHA loan, especially in the case where the buyer is in a multiple offer situation and there are offers with stronger down payments competing against them. So if you're an FHA buyer and you're buying in this housing market, chances are you're going to be in a multiple offer situation. Now, I realize that depends on where you're located in the United States, but right now it's competitive in a lot of different places. And so, people putting in offers a lot of times at the asking price, sometimes having to go above the asking price. There's competition out there. And so when you have several buyers trying to buy the same property, one is using an FHA loan, one is putting 10 or 20% down, one might be doing VA or what have you, the seller is more likely to go with the buyer that has the higher down payment in most cases. Now, obviously, the offer price, the terms of the contract are also going to play into that decision, but if all things being equal and one is an FHA loan, one is a conventional loan, chances are the seller is going to go with the conventional loan just because, there's more money there. If something were to go wrong, there's a potential that buyer can use some of the funds that maybe they were putting down for the down payment to make up gaps in the appraisal or, potential repairs that the seller might not do. Whereas the buyer using the FHA loan may not have that additional money to make up that appraisal gap in many cases. So what I'm seeing is a lot of sellers going towards the offers with stronger down payments. And I talk about that more in a video that I'll mention here, that it seems to be the buyer with the highest down payment in this market tends to, get their offer accepted more often than the buyer with the lower down payments. At least that's what I'm seeing in my market. And thirdly is along the same lines, and that is issues with appraisal. So FHA has something called an amendatory clause that allows any buyer to essentially back out of the contract if the home does not appraise. Now, even as a buyer waiving that appraisal contingency up front, that amendatory clause still protects you. It still allows you to back out of the contract even if you've waived that appraisal contingency, because it's guaranteed by the FHA, and it's a disclosure that's required for both the buyer and seller to sign. And so even in the cases where you're waiving the appraisal, that still gives you the opportunity to say, hey, the amendatory clause says that if it doesn't come in at value, I can use that to back out, and you would be allowed to do that. So what I'm seeing in this market right now, where it's competitive, a lot of offers are going again above the asking price, and in the competition is pretty fierce. I'm seeing sellers shy away from FHA loans because of that potential appraisal issue. What happens if it doesn't appraise? Does that amendatory clause protect the buyer even though they've waived it? Those are things and conversations that I'm having with sellers out there in this market. So if you're using an FHA loan, just understand that it's a difficult market for many reasons. One, because it's competitive. One, because there are overlays on programs at the moment that make qualifying a little bit more difficult than maybe a year ago. But FHA loans are great loans, to get you into a property, especially if you don't have the larger down payments. But understand, you need patience in this housing market. It might take, a couple of offers to get an offer accepted, and if you're someone that is considering using an FHA loan and you're just starting the process and you want more information about FHA, check out a video here where I talk about FHA requirements. And one thing I've mentioned, whenever discussing loans, is that this is another reason that you want to make sure you're getting fully pre-approved up front, and not going out and trying to find a house and then get pre-approved, because going through the pre-approval process up front will run your credit scores. It'll go over the terms. The lender will be able to tell you up front whether or not they can do the financing on the property. And that way, you have some certainty when you're out there making offers that you actually have, the ability to make an offer and get it accepted, or move forward if the offer is accepted. Whereas if you're out there trying to make offers without a pre-approval, for one, you're going to have a very tough time in this market. But secondly, if you did get an offer accepted in some crazy way without a pre-approval, you're not behind the eight ball trying to figure out the terms and the fees and what's associated with it. You know everything up front. And again, if you need a referral to a lender across the country, do me a favor, reach out to me directly. I'm happy to put you in touch with someone. And if you have additional questions about FHA loans or loans in general, reach out to me, and we can have that discussion. But for now, I appreciate you taking the time to watch. Appreciate the support. Hope to see you again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.